morning, everyone. Oh, thank you, Shay. As always, I typically forget to start the timer. We are 21 minutes today with the one, the only Kevin Moran joining us from Blaze Pizza. Although you have a very interesting background, and I'm super excited just to get into some of our topics today. But to kick us off, as always, we've got a fun little icebreaker question. So please just bear with us as we ask some of our quirky inside jokes here. So if Blaze were to have created a Kevin Moran pizza, what toppings would be allowed on it, and what would your team veto immediately?
I would definitely be looking for a pepperoni, onion, and pineapple. Yes, I'm the pineapple guy.
Oh, he's a
I'm one of the
pineapple
pineapple
guy.
guys. And I bet that would be the ingredient they would veto.
I love it. That there's two types of people in
Yeah.
this world. It's good that we know that now before
Shows
the
character.
yeah, yeah. I'm like, do we
Different type
cancel
of
the
people.
show? No.
Yeah, right? I know.
That's awesome. So, looking back in your background, you've had a pretty wide variety of professional experiences. You went from utilities and Six Sigma to pretzels and pizza now. Um, I'm curious if you could introduce just one lesson from your past life and industries that you've brought forward today. What would you pin that on?
Hmm. So when I started in not just the food and beverage industry, like as you alluded to, the telecom and the utilities industry, I was in finance. I was an FP&A individual, and I really took the numbers to heart. And so I really bridged my career, built my career on connecting the dots between what the numbers say and what is operations doing, right? So it's not just me putting a number on a piece of paper and saying, oh, this is great or this isn't great, whatever it may be, but why is it happening? And so bridging that gap between finance and operations really starts to develop kind of the strategy side and really gets you to think. It's the double click that makes you double click again and then double click again that says, okay, why, and why? Okay, now how do we address that strategy? So that's really kind of
Yeah.
how it has evolved into being, the position that I'm in today.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. And even, as we think about it as marketers, the numbers tell a story. And so, how do you tell that story so it's meaningful for people, especially operationally when you're trying to move the needle? And from what I have seen as of late, that is definitely on your agenda is transformation. So take us back. I just want to understand, as you bridge that gap from finance and kind of this past life into food and beverage, and now here you are really transforming Blaze Pizza. What was the moment? Like a conversation, you saw an article along the way that you thought, okay, Blaze really has uncovered, untapped potential, and I want to be a part of that.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So obviously, being in the food and beverage industry for the past 10 years or so, you keep up with other brands, whether it's the brands you're pushing and selling and helping promote, or it's your competition, or it's just you're just in the industry and you just know who's playing in it. And I've had my eyes on Blaze Pizza. I had my eye on this particular industry. When you talk about pizza, there's several categories of pizza
Right.
and you could rope in Domino's, Pizza Hut, Little Caesars. I'll call it into discount pizza.
Hmm.
You really can't go into a Domino's and sit down. You can't do those types of things, and that's fine. And they serve a niche. This is more, I'd say, quick service. You can get a pizza in 3 minutes. That's unheard of, right? And so that's some of the stuff that started to whet my appetite on coming over to Blaze. But then having have tried it, the product itself is phenomenal. And having set that industry, if you go back 10 years, 12 years ago, the novelty of going down the line and ordering was massive.
Right.
You look at the Cavas, you look at the Chipotles, even look at Subway, look at Jersey Mike's. You go down the line, you pick your things, and then your product is there. What makes this very unique is you did the same back then, and everybody loved to see what they were getting and doing, but in the real life situation, it takes time to cook a pizza. So get a pizza out in 180 seconds. Holy cow. Because
Yeah.
when you finish ordering your burrito, they hand it to you and you go sit down.
Right.
So having that novelty and all that was also something I thought was kind of groundbreaking. And I'm like, if they're thinking like that and they're doing things like that and able to deliver a pizza in 180 seconds, I want to see what else is there and what else can happen. And then the product is good. So when the product is good, you've got really good bones to grow with.
Sure. Makes sense. I actually haven't thought about it like this before. It, kind of the conveyor belt Model T moves into food, moves into, then transformation around the entire really industry and space. You eat with your eyes, right? So why wouldn't you want to make that decision based on pointing? I do. I'm like,
Mhm.
well, which one is that?
I always like touch the glass too, and I
Yeah.
feel so bad. They're like,
Hands off, lady. So,
Yeah, and it's amazing how that has even transformed in the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, even something post COVID, people know
right.
when they order with their eyes, and that's great, and we don't ever want to lose that opportunity for someone to go down the line and touch Shane touch the glass like you've
Yeah.
been talking about and all
Yeah.
that. We don't want to lose that. But then there's the people that say, I already know. I already know what I want. I know how good your ingredients are. I don't need to see you make my pizza. I don't need to tell you to put the pepperonis and the onions and the pineapple on my pizza. I can just tell you to do it, whether it's via a third party app that I will log on to and it's going to be delivered to me, whether I'm ordering it and having going and picking it up. Or
Right.
now in our new innovation center, you can now go to a kiosk and order it, or you can actually order it at your table via QR code. I don't want to stand in this line. I don't want to get behind someone that's slow because I want to sit down. I want to order. And we make it for you in not quite 3 minutes, but I think if once you hit go on you've sent your pizza to the make line, I think it's under 8 or 9 minutes, which is still pretty fast to get a pizza while you're sitting there and you're not standing in line.
Right, exactly. That's a great point, and I feel like you've been able to kind of merge consumer needs, with operational expectations too, which is very hard to do sometimes to like
Yeah.
understand and then deliver on it. Would you say that was maybe one of the first, or maybe it's something else when you sort of joined the team that you saw um, opportunity for transformation? Like, what was the thing that you thought, okay, I really want to get my hands in there and do this?
Yeah. So, in my previous life, those are some really powerful brands that I worked for, and I sold them internationally. But to get a brand to go international, it's not just lift and shift, right? And there's a lot of things that have to change when you're trying to push something in the UK, something in Singapore, something in Japan, you name it. It's going to be difficult. And so you learn to look at the brand and you learn to look at its strengths and its weaknesses. And you're basically transforming that brand. It's not Blaze in Singapore, it's Blaze Singapore. It
Right.
has to fit the way that the Singaporeans want it to fit. And I really learned and grew doing that in my previous life. And so when I saw this here, I said, oh my God, there's a huge opportunity here for us to look at this. And it wasn't even just for that international growth. It was also the brand had been around for 10, 12 years, and it hasn't really evolved into that transformation that you were just talking about, that people want to get things a different way. And we call it choose your way to blaze. So when I saw the brand and I saw what the bones that it had, I was looking at it going, well, wait a second, we can transform this domestically and internationally. So we started to look at the brand really, really hard under the microscope and what was working, what wasn't working, how do the customers want to be served, choosing your
Right.
way to blaze, per se. And so we really started to break it down, and then we started to break down what pieces have to change, and it could be equipment, it could be the ops model. It could even be some menu items as well. So we really started to evaluate all this, and that's what got me excited because I saw all this when I was evaluating Blaze just from afar.
Sure. So international expansion, I think, is always a challenge to your point because not only are you trying to recreate the ops system that we know runs, the United States, but you also have a brand to try and duplicate, and we've worked with international brands in the past and the nuances of even, the words and what it may have a double entendre or a different meaning or conception, right? Or um, in your case, you have a pretty well known investor in the concept who does have international reach, LeBron James. Um, were you, I have to know, were you a LeBron James fan before you joined the concept?
No, but I really wasn't. No, it has nothing to do with whatever there may or may not be with LeBron. It's just I wasn't an NBA fan at all. I basically stopped watching the NBA after Jordan, Bird, and Magic played, and not for any reason. I just lost interest. So
Yeah.
it's not like I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. I
Right.
just don't really keep up with the NBA. But I do know, especially in those international markets, especially when you get into the Asian markets. Um, that's the first question. They were like, "Well, will LeBron come to my grand opening?"
That's right.
And so, if he was as involved back
Yeah.
then as he could be now, or excuse me, vice versa, I would have a lot more units in Asia. That's for sure. Because
Right.
they have for him. So it
Yeah.
helps. It definitely helps.
Do you think, because it's such an interesting conversation, right? People just, I do, so, I mean, immediately assume, and I'm sure your franchisees, obviously, to your point, like, is he going to show up? How's this going to go down? Do you attribute, kind of the notoriety of the brand towards celebrity and spokesperson? Or do you think that the operational lift has a lot more to do with the ability to expand?
I think it's a little bit of both, right? And when you think about when this brand was founded in 2012, there was no such thing as a podcast, an influencer,
Right.
nothing. So the celebrities were the influencers, right? And they had street cred, which is awesome. And I think that helps get a lot of things started. I think it gets a lot of people motivated to be a part of it. And sometimes it might be someone that's very, very polarizing. It might be sometimes it's someone that's very, very beloved by everybody. No one doesn't like this person, and whatever it may be. And those can help, but at the end of the day, you still have to deliver a good product.
Right.
And if your product doesn't taste good, it's not a good customer experience, and it's not meeting the customer where and how they want to be met, I don't think there's a celebrity or an influencer that can take you out of those, I'll say, ruts of notoriety
Yeah.
or awareness.
Yeah. Great point. It might be the reason you walk in the front door, but it won't be the reason you come back a second
You
time.
won't come back, right? Exactly.
hmm Um, I would love to dig in a little bit more into like your leadership and transformation, because you've had, some pretty large cross-functional teams that you've been able to lead to success. What do you think is the most unconventional way you've ever been able to like really tackle a big problem?
Yeah. So many moons ago, I was tasked to get 2,200 international franchise units across 5 brands to report their sales on a daily basis in a consistent manner. And,
Okay.
yeah, and you think, oh, okay, well that's IT, and not one unit, sorry, not one brand in one country had the exact same POS. So we're talking hundreds of different POS systems as well to
Wow.
report sales. And so we built a team, a very lean team, myself and an IT consultant basically, and
hmm
we tackled every single unit in every single country. And I had Russian translators, I had Arabic translators, I
Wow.
had Japanese translators on the calls, and I was taking calls at 3 in the morning because that's 3 in the afternoon in Asia.
Great.
And we got through it. Typically, when you sell a brand internationally, the owner slash franchisee and even its senior level executives, the director of ops and those types of things, all speak English. But when you start getting down into the core of their machine, their IT guy doesn't speak English. And when you're trying to get them to create a platform and to do a certain type of thing, it
Yeah.
can be hard. And it's really funny. I used to say, we have this funny story. We would
Yeah.
talk about, hey, when can we get this? When can we do that? And I would say, hey, let's shoot for June. And then the Russian guy would go talk, and it would be for like 30 seconds.
Right.
And my answer was June. And I was like, how is he still talking? Like, how is he not translating just speech?
Yeah,
So we would laugh and have some fun with that.
that's
Mhm.
amazing. I can only imagine the stories coming off of these
And the
calls.
misinterpretations too.
Right? Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, clearly you're talking about it now. So there was success behind the madness of the process,
Sure.
but were you just pulling your hair out along the way?
Yes and no. It was super fun, and I always like a challenge. And when you can say at the end of the week, at the end of the month, hey, we converted another 30 stores, we converted another 70 stores. What's the time frame? Well, we want to have 2,000 of them converted within a year and a half. Like when you have your little, they have that the blood drive goal thing
Yeah, oh
where your
yeah.
little,
We'll
and you're
elevate
getting and you're
thermometer.
seeing, yeah, yeah, exactly, and you see you're advancing it.
Yeah.
That really keeps you going strong and positive. But then it also starts to show the rest of the organization that anything is possible. If people want to roll up their sleeves and get into the game, that anything's possible. So that was always kind of the fun part of it. Yeah, it was hard. I'm not gonna lie, getting up at 3 in the morning and trying to because you got to do what you got to do. And some days I'd be home at noon, and my wife would be like, "What happened?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm done. I've already been there
Yeah,
for ten
Work to be
hours. I've
done.
been there." And so you kind of work your way back. But it was definitely fun, but it was definitely hard.
I bet. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Were there other things like as you made the leap from, finance utility into food and beverage that surprised you were so inefficient? Like, because when you talk about this problem that you were tasked to solve, if you're not in the F&B world or even franchising, to think people aren't reporting their sales would probably blow your mind. Like how do you run a business, Were there other things that you found along the way that were, kind of um, shocking or
Yeah,
yeah, that you
definitely.
didn't know?
And
Right.
and don't think that the utilities aren't as inefficient, and don't think that other things aren't either.
Yeah,
When someone's not reporting their sales, it's not that they weren't reporting them; they just weren't reporting them daily. We didn't require them to, so they'd send us a file once a week, and
got
it would
it.
come in. But that's still not really fast enough, right? But when you think about just inefficiencies across just whatever industry that you're in, you're always trying to be better. Look at what AI is going to be bringing to the world and efficiencies and all of that stuff. But the biggest thing that I see in this particular industry, in the food and beverage industry, is there's a real disconnect between the franchisor, maybe, but the franchisee, construction, and real estate. And when you're out trying to get a location, so you've bought the brand and you want to
Hmm.
open up a Blades, you
Yeah,
now have to go find a location. We're going to try to help you find a location, but the real estate people aren't really knocking on your door. You really got to go out into your city centers and
hmm,
comb the streets and be like, I want to be here. And you got to know it. But then the construction guys have also got to be available or in those areas, or you have to have your own crew ready to go. But the real disconnect is, in my opinion, it's the costs, right? And at the end of the day, when a construction guy tells you it's going to cost X to convert an old food brand that's in this particular location to yours, and it's high, and the real estate guy is trying to get as high of a rent out of you, and it's high, and
yeah,
it says that I have to sell 4,000 pizzas a day to be able to afford your rent. There's a huge disconnect in what they're asking for and what we're able to deliver. Now,
right.
certain brands certainly have a higher, we call them AUVs, annual unit volumes, whether it's a million two, a 1.5 million, 2 million, 4 million, whatever. And I get that, but there's a disconnect because the people that own the real estate don't understand that their location isn't worth what they think it's worth.
Hmm.
And then if it isn't, and I can't get it to the price I need to get it for, I certainly can't bring in a construction guy that's going to cause an amount, because now my pizza that costs $10 or $12 now has to cost $27. No one's
Right,
going to pay $27 for an 11-inch pizza. So
right.
the math just doesn't work. And it's really kind of enlightening to me to see how this math doesn't work, and how do we get these boats to kind of all rise together,
Hmm.
and on these tides to get everybody, into the spots that they need to be, because ultimately the consumer is going to want your pizza
Right.
or your car
What they can
or your
afford.
hairstyle or whatever industry you're in. People want it, and if those dots are not connecting, it's just really hard to grow. It's really hard to grow a brand let alone a food brand that's got more and more and more competition coming in every day, every month, every year.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely a tough nut to crack
Yeah.
because the control over any one of those variables is virtually out of your hands, between real estate costs, construction costs, which change on the daily. And then you've got the franchisee who signed up and they're just watching the bouncing ball. Like, where do we go?
Think about how many times you have to sell the brand. So I have to
Yeah,
sell the brand to you. You
right.
buy it and you go build. Now you got to sell the brand to the landlord that he wants your brand in his complex. Then you got to
Totally.
sell your brand to your, I'll call them GC, but your construction people.
Sure.
And then you got to sell your brand to the consumer before you've
Right.
made a dollar, before you've done anything. So it's not the easiest road to go, but once you figure out how to do that and you have the structure in place, it really makes it a lot easier. And that's part of the reason why we don't really sell units onesie twosie, right?
Makes sense.
Because we want you to get the advantage of the synergies that, especially the work that you just did to get that first one built.
Yeah, 100%.
Never thought about it that way.
I know,
Yeah,
right?
selling it that many times.
Yeah, when
Mhm.
people are like, I'm not good at sales,
Mhm.
like, you better learn. You better learn. We are in overtime. The buzzer went off,
All right.
and we've got it's fast, right? It's never enough time. We've got a rapid fire section for you.
Okay.
So give us your hot takes. The first one we know, pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Yes.
It's a yes, yeah. Favorite Blaze menu item people sleep on?
The lemonade.
Ooh,
I
okay.
love
I want to sell it. I want to sell it in the gallons.
Good job. Yeah.
Smart.
Okay, I love this.
I love it.
Most chaotic moment you've ever had in a restaurant?
It's got to be Pie Day every year at Pie Day. Um,
Yes. Okay.
the prep for it's great though, but it's a busy day.
Yeah,
Makes
3.14 on the calendar every year. Favorite non-pizza food?
Anything Italian, you know, pastas, any of those types of dishes.
Yeah,
Carbs.
keeping it close to home. I like it. What's one piece of advice for someone trying to break into the restaurant franchise business?
Know your market, know your numbers, and know that whatever brand you're in is never passive. You've got to be involved on a day-to-day basis until you can get your, I'll call it kingdom, it's probably not the right word, until you can get your structure built, so then when you can start to kind of hand it off to someone else. You've got to, it's not passive.
Nice. Yeah, great advice. You really got to work the system. Okay, last question for you. What's one Blaze location everyone should visit at least once?
Well, for sure, it's our new innovation center called Ignite by Blaze here in Atlanta. And if you can't make that one, then I would certainly head to Disney Springs and see
I've
the
been to that
location
one.
there. It's it's magnificent.
I love it.
And they are fantastic down there.
That's awesome. Super insightful. Obviously, problem solving skills, expert level. Your answers are really just super interesting, especially for the industry. So, thank you for coming and spending some time and kind of letting us into the behind the scenes here. And we can't wait to visit Atlanta and see what happens next with the brand.
Well, that's great. And thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Thanks for inviting me.
You got it. Have a great day. Thanks, everybody.